Football starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Bear Football here on the Barroom Network. John Buffone alongside Aldo Gandia. Tyler Ellis has the night off, but probably for the best because the Bears end up falling by the score of 45-30 to the Green Bay Packers, outscored 24-3 in the second half against the Pack. All that magic the Bears were clinging to in the first half did not last through the third and fourth quarter. Although this thing went off the rails almost immediately as the second half went underway with a long, drawn-out, just suffocating drive by Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And I believe they scored 2 touchdowns within the first 3 or 4 minutes of the third quarter. So any takeaways from the second half from what we talked about in the first half?
Well, we saw a lot of Justin Fields' growing pains today. We saw what magic he can bring to the football field with his athleticism and special plays that he can make, but you also saw him turn over the ball via the pass and via fumble. And so you can't beat the Green Bay Packers that way. And you can't beat the Green Bay Packers if you don't have a defensive backfield that can compete with Devontae Adams and the other pass catchers on that team who may not be household names, but they are, they get the job done for Aaron Rodgers. There's a familiarity with them, and he demands the best out of them, and he gets the best out of them. And you can't beat a team when you don't win the line of scrimmage. And we saw that on both sides. The left tackle, Tevin Jenkins, came in and did not play well. He had penalties, and he played as well as I expected him to play, which is, he needs a lot more practice reps, a lot more, before we can even consider him a left tackle for the Chicago Bears. So it's almost unfair that he got in there. But and then the pass rush outside of the first half, the pass rush was non-existent, and Rodgers could do whatever he wanted in the second half, and he did.
Looking at this game, you see all the things that broke for the Bears in the first half, and you almost thought that was going to have to continue, where they would have to play an almost flawless game with a couple of breaks, and things would have to go their way, and it just didn't happen in the second half. And so, looking over this game, it almost ended as we expected it to, but it didn't play out the way we thought it was going to expect it to. I don't think if you would have told us before the game that the Bears were going to score 30 points, you say, "Whoa, okay, there's a shot there." But you still 45 points, 24 of them in the second half. It's kind of like we've said on previous shows, where it's like you don't know what else to dissect anymore. You don't know where else to go with this team anymore, because it really is the same thing all the time. They didn't address the secondary well enough, and you can put that on Ryan Pace because you're upset that Xavier Howard's no longer available, and if that's a guy that you were really depending on to be a stalwart in your defensive backfield, that's kind of a problem. Why isn't is Thomas Graham that bad? Your 6th-round draft pick, is that bad that you can't get a look at him to see what he's like? I believe he's still on the practice squad. You put Jenkins in out of necessity because Peters gets hurt, and you did see some rookie mistakes out of Justin Fields, but man, I don't know. I'm tired of seeing this team on primetime, man. It's damn near midnight here on the East Coast, and I had to watch that entire thing. And you know what? We get to see him again next week on primetime. We get to see him on Monday Night Football next week. Isn't that exciting? Isn't that awesome that we get to not just we get to watch our Bears on primetime, everyone gets to watch the Bears on primetime, and everyone gets to make fun of the Bears in primetime again next week, which is why I was really hoping they would flex this game out of Sunday Night Football. But I guess it's a ratings getter, and it sounds like Chris Collinsworth really wanted to do this game. So I would say that he might, that the broadcast team may have had a say in that as well. But ultimate takeaways from this, Aldo, because none of us really thought the Bears were going to go in and win this game. I mean, we had hope that they would be competitive. We had hope that they would win this game, but using logic and using the entire season as evidence, you could almost assume that the Bears were probably going to lose this game. So what can you pick out of this to say, all right, our young guys are getting reps? Is that the main thing you take out of this? Okay, Justin Fields made some explosive plays. Maybe he's working out some of those mistakes, and he'll be better suited to be the starter full-time next year. What do you pick out of this game that you can take with you?
Well, I mean, again, it's player evaluation. You're going to go look at the tape, and you're going to look at how the right tackle did, Larry Borum. You're going to look at everyone else on the offensive line, and you're going to, you're going to see that you're going to need some help in the middle of the defensive line. I've made a lot of excuses for Sam Mustipher, but the fact of the matter is that he has trouble against powerful interior defensive linemen. And so what are you going to do about that? Is there any way possible the guy can add strength so that he can compete against these Pro Bowl type defensive tackles that he's faced this year and will face in the future? That has to be determined. And so you continue to evaluate what you got and what you need. And so there's the value of that. There's value in getting snaps. There's value in Justin Fields seeing what the Green Bay Packers defense looks like from behind center and from the shotgun position. And he's going to go back and study that tape, and he's going to see that there were opportunities downfield that he did not execute on. So so that's valuable. I see a lot of people in the chat room are really down on Justin Fields, and yeah, he made some terrible mistakes, but that's to be expected out of a rookie quarterback who did not have substantial snaps with the first teamers in the preseason. And so he was not geared to play football this season. And that's on the coaching staff. That's on them. So I wouldn't be down on Justin Fields, because again, we see the talent there. And when you look at the history of the National Football League, there aren't very many rookie quarterbacks, guys who have gone onto the Hall of Fame, who have had illustrious careers. There aren't many that came out in their rookie season and flashed and played tremendously. So you've got to kind of, hold back on the criticism of Justin Fields. Certainly he deserves some. I was frustrated with him a number of times throughout this game. And it's legitimate to be frustrated with him, but let's not, throw in the towel on Justin Fields. He still has a great future with this team, and hopefully we'll start seeing that, because he's got 4 more chances to make this work this season. And I got a feeling he's going to have more games like we saw in that second quarter. I mean, there was 24 points scored in the second quarter by the Chicago Bears. They've had 24 points 3 times, I think 2 times in games this season. That's the most for 4 quarters. So there is some good news here. You just got to sift through it. And I hate saying that, John, because I know you have eloquently, with muscles bulging from your neck, said that you're tired of these little victories, these victories while people are laughing at us, while we're making stupid mistakes on the field and stuff. I know you're tired of it, and I am too. But we this is where we're at, and so we have to sift through the damage, sift through the rubble, and find the good stuff, build on that, and then hopefully make some dramatic moves at the front office and coaching staff and rectify this situation.
Yeah, I'm not as down on Justin Fields as others may be. Look, Trevor Lawrence is having a bad rookie season. If you really just want to stack up the stat, he had 4 picks today. He has 16 turnovers total in his head, and he doesn't get nearly the amount. Maybe it's because he's in Jacksonville and he's with Urban Meyer. Maybe that's why. Zach Wilson isn't having a great rookie season. Mac Jones is having a pretty good rookie season, but it's because they're putting a lot of the weight on different parts of the Patriots team and letting Mac Jones kind of come into it on his own. Trey Lance hasn't really even played, so it's hard to really get an evaluation on that. But what do you make of, because we talked about Justin Fields not having that whole preseason, because we were dead set, the coaching staff dead set on Andy's QB1, Andy Dalton's QB1. We're going in, we're working with Andy. And that lasted, 2-3 weeks before it was full-time Justin Fields. So you almost wasted his entire rookie training camp. He got to play with the 2s and the 3s, but didn't get to build any chemistry. And I'm not saying that is the reason, but he doesn't seem to have any chemistry with Allen Robinson whatsoever. Allen Robinson, 2 catches for 14 yards. I don't know what the deal is. What is up with Allen Robinson, and why is he not getting more targets? Why is he not being more productive? This is a guy that was expected to have triple-digit receptions, like he's shown us that he can do. And now it's like he's an afterthought in this offense where he caught a ball. I'm like, oh, yeah, he is playing tonight. I forgot he's active. And it's almost like why is he not a bigger part of this offense whenever I know that they're force feeding the ball to Jakeem Grant and they're getting it to Demarius Byrd, which is great. You love to see those guys contributing, but Allen Robinson is supposed to be your number one guy. He's making a franchise tag salary. He's a guy that's going to command, well, at least ask for $14, $15, $16 million a year in the next contract. Now, teams may look at this and say, oh, well, you're not really producing that much. But where's Allen Robinson? I just want to know what's the deal. Is it coaching? Is it Allen Robinson himself? Is it a problem with him and Justin Fields? I just want to know why. Why is it not working? I don't have any answers for that.
Yeah, and I disagree with Caesar here. Says A-Rob has not cared to play this year. He has no heart for this team. I truly, truly believe that that's incorrect. I believe, listen, Allen Robinson has lost millions of dollars this season. You think that he's going to get the $20 million payday next season that he wants, that he thinks he deserves? Absolutely not. He's frustrated by this whole thing too. He had a long talk with Mark Grody of WSCR 670. Some of that was played today. And he was talking about, this is not the ideal situation for me, given, that this is costing me. And he doesn't want that. He wants to go out there and excel. But there is just something incredibly mystifying about why Fields just can't hit him in the numbers, and there aren't that many targets. As I pointed out in the middle of the third quarter via tweet, he had 2 targets, 1 catch for 8 yards. He got a couple of more the rest of the game, but it's like Justin just is not looking at him. Maybe they had an argument in preseason. Maybe he didn't like the way A-Rob welcomed him to the team. I don't know what it is, but it is mystifying. It is maddening, and it is one of the reasons why this offense has not played well. This is one of your key guys. This is a guy who caught 200 passes over the last 2 seasons with the Chicago Bears. He has talent. Yes, he doesn't break away from receivers. He doesn't have that skill, but you throw it to him, and within his catch radius, he comes down with it the majority of the time. He came down with it 200 times over the last 2 seasons. So it's not like he is a bad player. He is a good player, but it is mystifying why Mike Furry, the wide receivers coach, Matt Nagy, and Bill Lazor have not figured out why A-Rob is a waste of $15 million this year. And I hope that when George McCaskey sits down with Ryan Pace and he's going to say, listen, you've had me spend a lot of money on certain players who just aren't delivering. Why is that? Is it because of the coach that you chose? Because of the assistant coaches that you allowed to continue to show up to work year after year after year who are not delivering results? What the hell is going on? I want to know. Me, George McCaskey, I want to know, and I want to let John and Aldo know on the Bear Football Show.
Well, but I don't know if those questions are ever actually asked, Aldo. We were talking about that at the end of the year press conference last year. Did anyone sit George McCaskey, or did George McCaskey, I should say, the person who should be asking the questions, did he sit Ryan Pace down and say, and Matt Nagy down and say, Matt, why did it take so long to get the offensive line figured out? That you were so stubborn using Rashard Coward for half the season. Why did you take Mitch out, put Foles in, and then take him back out? Why was Mitch on such a short leash, but Foles was on such a long leash? And all these other things that went into last year. I don't know if they actually sat them down and asked any of those tough questions, because when the media asked them those questions, they couldn't believe they were being asked those questions. It almost seemed like it was almost like that was the first time they heard of that. At least they didn't even have a PR powwow to say, hey, listen, you're probably going to be asked this. Here is our response. They didn't even have those canned responses to them last year. All they did was put a mandate on some mythical progress where there actually is no definition of what progress is. There's never any definition of what progress is, because they won't actually put it in actual goals, because if they don't attain those, then they might actually have to make a decision. So it's always progress. What's progress? Is it no? Tell me what the finish line is. Is it playoffs? Is it the division? Is it a conference championship appearance? Is it a Super Bowl? Tell us what the actual goal is, because if you give your GM and your head coach just a mystical, soft finish line to make, they can twist whatever they want into saying, hey, we met those expectations. We brought in Justin Fields and he played pretty well. We got a new shiny toy quarterback. I'd say that's progress. Hey, look, Robert Quinn is doing really well. He has 14 sacks so far this year. I'd say that's progress. But whenever the top down won't give you any kind of expectations, won't give you any kind of goals to meet, and just say, you know what, guys, you go ahead and make your own goals. You tell us what progress is. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get a watered down product where everyone is just doing whatever the hell they want and there's no actual results being put out. So we're seeing the same damn thing year after year after year, because from the top down, no one is ever going to be just a hardline guy. It's just like, hey, Matt, you're a nice guy. Oh, I was hearing about how nice of a guy Matt Nagy is. I'm sure he's a nice guy. I know plenty of nice guys. I don't want them coaching the football team. There's a lot of people who I'd like to invite over to my house and I love to socialize with. Don't touch the football team. Don't put together the football team. At some point, the people at the top have to say, win or get out. Show us results or you're gone. This is not mom and pop Hallis's family football team anymore, where you just say, well, we can't let go of him. We just had dinner with him and they're such a nice guy. Look what he did to Hallis Hall, and boy, his hair's nice. We can't keep doing this crap. Yep. You have to put somebody in that will get you results. And if they don't, hit the bricks. This is a business and you are responsible for putting a good product on the field. How many times do I have to see the graphic where the Bears were leading the Packers series by what 30-some games just decade when Favre came in? And now they're 3 games behind the Bears for all-time wins? You blew this whole series in 3 decades, going on 4. You let it all go. You screwed it away. Gone. For what? You blew it. Fix it. And quit messing around like this. Well, we have a lot of faith in people. No more time for faith. Time for results. Fix it or get out.
That's I couldn't have said it better myself. You're absolutely right. It is do or die. It is at this point now, there is no way the Chicago Bears fans will accept anything other than a major overhaul at Hallis Hall. And I said this on your show Wednesday. I am hoping beyond hope that George McCaskey has been working the last 2 or 3 weeks to find an executive president of football operations, and that tomorrow morning, after this devastating loss, he has called a press conference to announce who that person is going to be, to announce who the interim head coach is going to be for the rest of the season, and to announce that this executive vice president is going to lead the search, or is going to, over the next couple of weeks, evaluate the team and then make decisions later. This is what George McCaskey can do to fire up Bears fans, to fire up the everyone here who is so upset with everyone at Hallis Hall. He can change the narrative by making a bold move and making this announcement of an executive vice president tomorrow morning or a week from now or 2 weeks from now. But he's got to act very, very soon, because he's losing the fan base. He is losing the fan base. I ran a poll on Twitter today. It was just for 3 hours. We got over 350 votes, and the apathy, the indifference, which is, you could have picked 3 things that you're hopeful for tonight, not hopeful or apathetic about the whole thing. 51% of the fans were apathetic about a Green Bay Packers Chicago Bears game. Apathetic about it. They don't care anymore about the Bears. The NBC kept this game on because they know the ratings they get from a Bear Packer game. Let's see what those ratings look like, because I don't think it was that, maybe the first half got people suckered into watching this thing, but for the most part, I don't think people really gave a shit about the Bears throughout the nation, just like 50% of the Chicago Bears fans feel. It is really pathetic. And George McCaskey, if you're not going to make a bold, dramatic gesture of a move, then it's time for you to go. And somebody else, I hope that Virginia McCaskey is at home asleep, and that she didn't have to watch that second half, that she left at halftime, because that was just pathetic. And maybe she needs to pull a George Halas and hire her own coach like George Halas did with Mike Ditka. Maybe something like that. That would really fire up Bears fans. We need something like that, right, John?
Well, if you think if the ratings were going to be bad for tonight, wait till next Monday when they play the Minnesota Vikings, who are also sub 500. Right. You want to see really crappy ratings? Put the Bears and Vikings on prime time, because I think with this loss, I mean, the Bears aren't even on the not even in the hunt anymore. I think they're like 15th out of 16th in the conference now. I believe they're just above the Lions when it comes to the playoff hunt. So. What else do you need to? What other rock bottom do you need to hit? What other bottom does there need to be? I'm tired of hearing about, well, if they didn't fire Trustman in the middle of the season, you know what? They probably should have. And then, well, they didn't fire John Fox. Well, they probably should have.
Thank you.
I'm tired of saying, oh, they've never done that. I don't care. They've been doing the same crap for 40 years, and it's never worked.
Jason Peters has an ankle.
Sorry,
Vegas at concussions in the protocol. DHC has a forearm. Tonga has a shoulder, and Roquan with a hamstring. So that's the deal there with the players that did not finish. Tale of two halves. I think for us to be able to come out that first two quarters and do what we did, that was fun. That's good football. The guys played energized. They came out and played really good football all three phases, complimentary. And I think they got to see what they can be. To come out in the second half and have, give up 16 first downs for 222 yards, and they had that long drive there to start the third quarter, and then for the offense to go 3 and out several times in a row until the end of the half there when it's too late. That's just for us, where we got to understand that when you play a great team like this, they're going to make you pay for it, and they did that with two quick scores back to back. Before you know it, you're down 8. So I thought again, early on, I thought we were getting pressure on them, on Aaron. Defense for our offense, I thought we had them off balance. I thought we had some misdirections going on, and the guys made plays. But in the end, we didn't win. We lost, and so I just wish that we could have came out here with a different result. So I'll go ahead and open it up to questions. That I don't. I mean, I think so. I know that they had something that I think they were looking at his hand or something like that, but nothing has been said to me. I think he'll be all right. I don't know. I have no idea. Yeah, the kid, he's a vet player. He just sat on it. It's a 8 to 10 yard out route. He sat on it. Justin made a good throw. I'm pretty sure he threw it on time. The kid made a good play. So he jumped it, and it's just good defense.
Would you consider going for it when you have 4th and 1?
Thought about it, but then thought that at that point in time, you are a little bit backed up. You could be aggressive there and go for it. I don't think you're wrong if you go for it, but I don't think you're wrong either. And you saw what happened when we punted it, so. Yeah, I think that's for all of us and for him to take away. Like, you could really see the guys coming off to the sideline on the pick six. Everyone rallied around him and told, hey man, we got you. We got your back. And what did he do? He led the team down for a touchdown. That's growth for that kid. He's so mentally tough. And when you have a guy that in this moment, in this stage, when you throw a pick six, that's not easy. A lot of guys hang on to that. Not Justin. Justin doesn't. Yeah, it actually kind of probably juices him up a little bit, and he gets fired up. I thought the way he played the game today, when you have injury with your ribs, as coaches, you're always making sure you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know when he hits and how it's going to, affect him. But He was smart when he ran the football, when he scrambled. He got down when he had to. He got out of bounds when he needed to. And I thought that for him being off a few weeks to play against that defense, which is pretty good, I thought he did pretty good. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think for all of our guys that we all understand that it's the next man up mentality. We have had some injuries. And the guys I thought have really, when you come out here in that first half and you see that you get some pressure, you try to make some plays, you force some punts, but real quick, it can change really quickly. And I felt like that third quarter when they just got the ball and just they started running it, they started getting chunks with the run game, and then they scored the touchdown. And then we got to bounce back on offense and at least flip the field, worst case scenario, and we did, and we had to strip sack. They got the ball, they come back, and then they hit the touchdown. It's 2 uppercuts right in the chin, back to back. Before you know it, it's now you're trying to play catch up. And so it's no excuses with the other guys being out of the game. Our guys know that, but they're fighting. Our guys are playing hard. I think they showed it tonight, but it just wasn't good enough. Yeah, I have to see it on tape. You're right. It's never easy coming into this league as a rookie at tackle. We needed to make sure that we helped out as much as we could with some chips and slams on the edge. That's only natural for most tackles in that situation. So, we'll go back and look at the tape. I love Tevin. I think he's I think he's going to have a really, really good career. I think his future is very, very bright. And you learn from these moments, you really do. So he'll be just fine, and he's gonna rally, and he's gonna do everything he can to get better. Mm-hmm. No, just I think it wasn't on purpose. I wouldn't say that. I just say we didn't have many plays in that second half, and then when you get behind, you're obviously throwing the ball. You probably had a little bit more catches there in that situation. Mm-hmm.
Were you like, boy, we could have had the ball at 20 here, Jakeem? Is that your first thought when he's that deep and he catches it?
Not really. Not with what we felt we could do tonight with special teams. We felt really good about our special teams heading into this game, and it's an aggressive mentality. I think you got to pick and choose when you do return it because it can get you in trouble. But when you have a guy like him that can be electric and do things like he just took it 97 yards, and then it seems to be a good decision. But I trust. He's done it a long time, and I trust in Jakeem. I thought he had a great game with that. Is it what? What was the first part? Yeah. Yeah. No, it's the 3 phases was key. You could feel it all night, whether it was a kick return, whether it was us on kickoff return, whether it was a punt return, our field goals, with Cairo. Just across the board, the special teams was just you felt like they were going to give you great field position, and they did that. So, and then to get a muff punt fumble recovery as well, that didn't happen. But man, it would have been a pretty good night for them, and I thought they played well. Yeah, fun. It was fun. That's that first half when you coach and you play that first half the way we did, that's what it's all about. That's why we do what we do. And let's face it, there's been difficult times this year, for everybody, for the players, for the coaches, and because we, what we can be. And when these guys play like that, that's why we do it. That's why we do it. And our message at halftime was, that's great, but we got to do it for quarters 3 and 4. We got to finish. And that's probably the biggest thing that these guys right now, players and coaches, just know that, not finishing that game against that team is where, we got to be better.
Given the pressure and the urgency going into the season,
Mm-hmm.
what's the feeling of 4-9 now?
Well, you know that for us, when you're 4-9, it stings. You want to be better. Again, I'm always going to just go back to these.
That's fine. You're muted, bud. So that's what we hear from Matt Nagy. I saw a lot of comments saying he looks defeated. He looks the same as he does in every press conference, defeated. Honestly, it's probably a guy who knows he's done. So at that point, what's the use in keeping him there? Why do you not turn the page? Because we've said this, other people on the network have said this. If the McCaskies already know what they're going to do with Matt Nagy. So if you already know and you're 4-9, and even though you're technically not out of the playoff race, you're out of the playoff race, turn the page and just start. And I know a lot of people in the chat room are talking about the Trace Armstrong rumors. That we could probably do an entire show on that, but I'll address that briefly. I believe that he went on Twitter this morning saying there's absolutely no validity to him talking to anybody at Hallis Hall, which I guess if you were talking to people at Hallis Hall and you didn't want anyone to know, that's what you would say publicly. But let's not completely shut the door on that. But that's an interesting name. Isn't he connected to Matt Nagy though? Isn't he like Matt Nagy's agent or something like that?
Correcto.
Yeah. So yeah, like, hey Matt, yeah, so you're out, but good news. I'm actually heading over there right now. I got a little bit of a job offered there. So that's what a weird circumstance that would be. That's for an entirely different time, for an entirely different show, when it's not 12:15 in the morning when I'm doing this right now. But Aldo, looking over that presser, it's basically the same thing we've always said. And I think Matt Nagy knows his rah-rah, next guy up, hey, fighting for each other, let's go, clap, clap, clap on the sidelines. That crap has run its course, and we knew that a couple weeks ago. I think that he is just out of ideas. Honestly, I just don't know if he knows what to say anymore. I don't think he knows what to do anymore. I think that he'd almost welcome someone saying, Matt, it's done. That might be a huge weight off his shoulders to say, all right, dude, you're done. You're just, it's over. Appreciate it. Appreciate the 2 playoff berth. You're done, man. And so he gets paid either way. So he can start his summer a little early. So I think that I just don't know what the Chicago Bears would be waiting for, especially going into another primetime game next week against the Vikings. Why subject yourself to another laughingstock week, to the national pundits, the national talking heads, the whatever broadcast team is going to be talking about that? And that's true that for my hometown, there's a little bit of a Trace Armstrong root there, which I guess, you know what, for being such a small town in Western Pennsylvania, a lot of NFL activity going out of there. Yeah. So Doug Buffone comes out of Roll Valley, Trace Armstrong related to people in Roll Valley. Jim Kelly, East Brady, right down the road, play just Western PA, just a harbor for all those NFL greats, so to speak. But anyway, back to the subject at hand. The Chicago Bears again on primetime next week. Although at some point, if they don't fire Matt Nagy after this game or potentially after next game, are we to assume that he's just going to kind of coast out the season, or does that new rule where you can start talking to people 2 weeks before the season ends? Do the Bears actually use that to their advantage, like they'd be wise to, and start interviewing people 2 weeks before the season ends if they fire Matt Nagy?
Yeah, this is the kind of catch-22 situation they're in. If they don't bring in, and this is why I want McCaskey to hire an executive vice president of operations like now. There's good candidates out there. Should have been interviewing them for the last 2-3 weeks, because if you're going to fire Matt Nagy, so you can have that opportunity to interview potential coaches the last 2 weeks of the season under that new rule, do you really want Ryan Pace to be a part of that? I don't. I just don't trust the guy. I don't think that Ryan Pace knows how to build a team. I don't think he has the vision for how to build a team, and he just doesn't go about executing whatever that vision is that he has. It's like you said, was it earlier this show or in the halftime show? No, it was earlier this show about, why don't we know what the goals are of this team? Why don't we have a general manager and head coach coming in and saying, our goal is to win the Super Bowl, and this is how we're going to do it? There's none of that. There's this mediocrity in every aspect of this organization that is troubling. And so, yeah, I mean, at this point, to answer your question, you've got to bring in somebody above Ryan Pace in the next couple of weeks, so that way we can then take advantage of starting to interview coaches with those last 2 weeks, and that person doing that interviewing is Trace Armstrong, is Ozzie Newsome, is whoever it is that they bring in. And as for Trace Armstrong, this whole rumor thing with Trace Armstrong started maybe 3 weeks ago when Dan Pompei over at The Athletic wrote an article about that. It is time now for the Bears to buck tradition and go and hire an executive vice president, that things have changed in the National Football League. And 4 of the candidates, he finished the article suggesting 4 candidates, and Trace Armstrong was the very first person. Now he is a player. He does head a player agency. He's, I think, the co-owner of it, and Matt Nagy is one of his clients. So
right.
I don't think that Trace Armstrong thing is going to happen. To your point,
probably not. But getting back to the other points, at least Lovie Smith said, "I'm here to beat Green Bay."
Yeah,
at least Lovie Smith said he actually gave some expectations here. So it's just everyone's just flapping in the wind, and it just seems like everyone knows what's going to happen, but the McCaskies are holding their fans hostage for some reason, because I don't understand why, because it's so obvious and I agree with a lot of people in the chat where they say it's going to take a lot more than firing Matt Nagy to turn this around. 100%. You have to that's just the first part, but you got to be able to get the people in there that'll actually do the job correctly. And that it involves bringing in a VP of football operations. That involves bringing in the right general manager and the right head coach. You seem to have figured out the quarterback position finally, but now you got to put the right people in the front office and on the sidelines to take you to where you want to go. But for that to happen, you have to get rid of the people that are there now. And why would you not want to get a head start on that when everyone knows Matt Nagy's not the guy?
Mm-hmm.
And most people know Ryan Pace probably isn't the guy. That's right. So why do you not say, let's get a head start on this? 2021 is a wash. It is a failure. It is an absolute, unequivocal failure to what you thought it might be. We were sold some fool's gold with some of the signings and saying we're going to improve from 2020, and they're worse. Mm-hmm. They're worse now than they were in 2020. They're gonna end up under 500 because guess what? There's 17 games now. No more riding the pine right at 8-8 and maybe squeezing into the playoffs in that new 7th seed. Not going to happen this year. Mm-hmm. There was no improvement. There was no progress. You can twist it any way you want, Ryan Pace. You can twist it any way you want, Matt Nagy. There was absolutely no progress. You got worse. Your quarterback may have gotten better, but the team as a whole and the results, which are the most important thing in this league, the results are going to be worse. So you need to go. I'm once again, I'm not just playing willy-nilly like fire. I know this is people's livelihoods. I understand that. These are their jobs. Their families are in Chicago. This is a big deal. But at the same time, this is what you accept when you get into this business. Much like the players do. If they get cut, they got to go find another job, just like anybody else. And whether you're in any other industry that involves traveling, the media, sometimes you get laid off and you got to go find another newspaper, or your contract's up at a TV station. You got to go find another one. This is part of it. This is part of the NFL business. And fortunately for those people in the NFL industry, if you lose your job, most of the time the other team, the team's got to pay you out a couple $1 million. So you're probably better off than a lot of people that lose their job. So I just want to see the wheels in motion. I want to see that next step. But when's that going to happen? Right.
Yeah. I wish I had an answer for you, but it has to happen as quickly as possible. You know, the how this organization is degenerating before our eyes is really startling. I've seen a lot of poor conclusions to a season in my years watching the Chicago Bears, but what's happening now really has a stench to it that I don't remember feeling before. And I think part of it has to do with maybe the length of the season. It's just like one more game that we have to endure. You know, we love our Chicago Bears, but sometimes it's really difficult to to experience the heartache over and over and over again. And it's just so frustrating. And, you know, one of the things that really frustrated me today is it's not like the Bears need like the Packers need any help from the officiating, but it seems like every game there's just something going on here that is so questionable. There's the one play on Kindle Vildor. He's called for going out of bounds and not coming in fast enough. Well, that was crap. He was back in the field like within 2 seconds. He fought his way to get back into the field, and obviously that the Packers player muffed the ball, and so the Bears would have had the ball in the red zone, I believe, and could have cut that. I think at that point it was a 14-point lead or something like that. And then, I remember earlier in the game watching the Packers player do the same thing. Watch what happens here at the very top of the screen. Yes, it's much worse. The very top of the screen. Look at this. Look at that guy.
He's on the bench.
He's on the bench, and he's running for like over 20 yards. Look at him. Look at him up at the top. 20, 30 yards. He's going. Again, at the top of the screen, he runs out of bounds by he's not forced out of bounds. He headed in that direction, and that was not called. It was not a penalty. So, again, it's so frustrating to go through this. We've got the awful general manager, the awful head coach, and now you got the NFL officiating on top of that. It's three things. And then let's add on a couple of more. Let's add on Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth just making fun of the Chicago Bears. It's just embarrassing. Let's add on watching all those fans in Green Bay holding up signs saying, "I own you, he owns you," and all this stuff. And it's just a kick to the stomach that I just can't stand anymore. I really need a break from this, man. It's really
I just don't want to see them in prime time anymore, honestly.
Yeah, I hear you.
And if they weren't representing the city of Chicago, they'd never be on prime time. They'd get their one Thursday night game, which is technically prime time, and that would be it, like the Jacksonville Jaguars usually get. They get their one primetime game, which is usually a bad Thursday night game against the Texans, and that's basically what it's a throwaway game. It's in prime time. But because the Bears are out of Chicago and it's a huge market and the fans will watch, that's why they continuously get this. Remember, it was Troy Aikman making fun of them the one time, or it wasn't really making fun of it, it was more along the lines of could not believe this was a professional football team, basically.
Yes, exactly.
He was just going in on it. And I would prefer that rather than what I heard tonight. But there's always I put it out there. It's just like, how do I turn off the Green Bay home broadcast? I put that tweet out there, and a lot of the response was, "Well, play better." But yeah, no crap. But I can't do anything about that. So I just don't want to see them on primetime anymore because for a number of reasons. One, it's embarrassing in the national, and just as the national media going in on the Chicago Bears, national fans having to watch that and tweet about. I got 4 or 5 texts from people who are not Chicago Bears fans or not Green Bay Packers fans, but they're football fans, and they just text me throughout the entire time saying, "Holy crap, you got to watch this every week." Yeah, I do. And then number 2, I'm tired of having to talk about the Chicago Bears at 12:30 in the morning after watching them get their ass kicked every time they're on prime time. Just take it off. Just take it off. Play them for the Chicagoans, play them at noon. For me, it's 1:00. Keep it that way. Keep it that way until they're good.
Bryce says, what do you guys think? Do you think fans will show up Monday night? Because apparently there's 19,000 seats that were empty last Sunday. I think I like the fact that there are going to be a lot of empty seats, and I'm pretty sure there will be. The apathy is just really.
Unless they fire Nagy. If they fire Nagy, I bet they fill up that stadium.
Exactly. John, you that's a bingo right there, man, because that's what I've been talking about. If at the very least McCaskey announces that calls a press conference and announces a plan, announces an upcoming hiring, anything to fire up Bears fans, he can be the hero. I've done a lot of studying of CEOs and leaders of organization and big business and so forth. You have got to sometimes make big, bold moves and let people know, I'm the guy in charge. He needs to come out there, take the blame and say, but it's not, things are going to change. And I promise you, because this is what I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3. He really needs to do that. And I agree with you. Watching them on national TV is just too painful, man. Let's put them on Fox or CBS, hide them among all the noon game Central Time here in Chicago. And let's not, show any highlights. Let's keep this under wraps until we fix it, and then unveil it to the national TV audience. I'm with you, John.
Well, yeah, they're a victim of their own market, and the same thing happens to the Giants and the Jets, and teams that have big fan bases that are real bad. They still got to get thrown out into the national media because they know that a lot of people will tune in, because a bad rating for the Bears would be a pretty good rating for Jacksonville, and so you have to. It's all a business, but it's the fans and you and I that suffer because we got to keep watching this team, and you're subjected to that scrutiny, and social media makes it all that much worse because everyone can throw their 2 cents in automatically, and the whole everything takes on a life of its own. So whenever Aaron Rodgers does the "I own you" thing, and then the game gets to be a 2-score, 3-score game, that's all they're going to talk about, because I've done play-by-play. I've done color commentating. When it's a blowout, you got to start talking about interesting stuff. You got to keep the game going, because you don't want them to tune out. So you got to start talking about something. You got what are we going to bring up? What are we going to talk about? Game's over. What are we going to talk about? Game's boring. What are we going to talk about? So they just keep harping on it. And you know what? People stay in the hate watch sometimes. They're like, these guys won't let it go. Oh my God, will they please shut up? Well, you're still watching it, aren't you? So it's very much a game towards how do we keep this game interesting, because we don't want people to tune out. We got a lot of advertising money going here. You know what? Let's harp on the "I own you" thing a little bit more. Let's see if we can find a guy in the crowd that looks like Aaron Rodgers. Let's see if we have anyone that brought in a meme that on a sign that we can go in on. So it's just it's get them out of prime time at least until they get a new coach. But we get to see him again next week. We get to do this all over again.
Yeah, I think Fields is at the podium. I'll have him up here in about 10 seconds. So Justin Fields meeting the media after the loss. We'll see how he is doing. He's going to be stoic and promise us that he will rebound from this.
Jumping a lot of routes, even on some other places he was jumping routes. So I mean, he's a great player, and you got to give credit to him. I mean, it was simple. We, coming in from the first half that we were up, but the game wasn't over, especially with the quarterback that they have on that side. And, it's just that simple. So, of course, we were satisfied with the first half, but we knew in the back of our head that we had to finish and come out in the second half strong. I feel like I played all right. There's always room to improve, so got to keep getting better. I was probably about 90%, so I'm just going to continue to get treatment and continue to get my body back. Back in my head, just trying to, stay protected and not take any hits, of course. And I think there was one sack where I just kind of fell down. I just wasn't trying to, take a major hit. So the main thing was just protecting myself. Yeah. It's kind of sore right now. I feel it every throw, but the pain is the same at pretty much every throw. So it's like, the pain is bearable. So again, I'm just gonna continue to get treatment, and it's definitely gonna keep getting better each and every day. And not on my ribs, just on my hand, but my hand is just swollen a little bit. So yeah, left hand. So there we go. I mean, I tell you what, I'm glad that was a pass. I mean, that boy can move. He's a playmaker, just like y'all saw on the punt return. He's literally playing backyard football out there. I mean, he's so quick, so little, and guys can't keep up with him. So he's a great player, and I'm glad he's a part of our team. We probably had some protection issues and just a little stuff, so we just got to tighten up on that. But we're gonna keep working and keep getting better.
Is Tevin in a tough spot when he has no preseason? Where you just got to go out there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough spot. That's a tough spot for Tev. And I know that he wanted to play great today. And, the sack he gave up, I just told him, look, I mean, it's your first game. Prime time Sunday night. You're a rookie, first ever playing time right now. Of course, you're going to make mistakes. So you have to go in there knowing that you're going to make mistakes and just learn from them and make sure they don't happen again. So, he was pretty bummed about it, but I just told him, don't worry about it and just move on to the next play, next drive, and, just keep that in the past.
That was Justin Fields, stoic as always, giving you the, he does handle himself very professionally in pressers. And you can tell that this is a guy that is confident in his skill set. It's a guy who understands he's making mistakes. And you're hoping to see, maybe by the end of the season, but it's certainly going into next season, a more polished product. And once again, this comes down to this is a guy that was thrown into the starting lineup without being the starter during training camp. He didn't get the Trevor Lawrence treatment. He didn't get the Zach Wilson treatment. He didn't even get the Mac Jones treatment, where they let go of Cam Newton before the season and said, you know what, Mac Jones is our guy. And so he had to build chemistry throughout the season with the number ones. And so is that part of why he can't get on the same page with Allen Robinson? Maybe. I'm sure there's a lot of other situations going on there, but this is a guy that's working through a lot, and he just looks like it. And I know there's no quantifiable way to say this. He just looks like the Chicago Bears quarterback for the next 10 years. And I'm saying that in a good way, not like the other quarterbacks. I'm not saying he looks like a Chicago Bears quarterback. He looks like the Chicago Bears quarterback. So I want to be very specific. I want to make sure that there's no misconceptions there. He looks like the Chicago Bears quarterback, not a Chicago Bears quarterback. And so he's working through a lot. He's got the legs. He's got the mobility. Maybe tighten up that release a little bit. It is a little bit looping. I will give Chris Collinsworth that much. He has a little bit of a looping release on some things. But these are things that you're hoping that he's going to work through. And he's a rookie. Once again, Trevor Lawrence had 4 interceptions today. Everyone still sees him as the next great quarterback coming up through the ranks. So these are all going to be growing pains. And once he does get a season under his belt and a full training camp under his belt, you're hoping this is the guy that can take the Bears where they need to go.
Exactly. I know that it is well past your bedtime, and you've got to go to work tomorrow. So I'm going to pull the plug, if it's okay with you. I'm going to pull the plug early on our Bear football show and let people know that I'm going to be back here at 11 a.m. Central with Greg Gabriel. We usually go on a little later on Mondays, but he's got an appointment in the afternoon, so we're going to go on at 11. We'll have highlights from the press conference. We'll have highlights from the game. And we'll get his, Greg is not going to pull any punches. He's going to tell it like it is. So tune in for that. And then John Buffone and Tyler Ellis will do the debate show on Tuesday. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah. There's not much more to debate. We're going to yell at each other, but we're probably going to be agreeing while we're doing it.
Exactly. I mean, they're really, at this point, what can you debate about the Chicago Bears? Everybody agrees they're awful. When you change it at the very top and so forth. I'm going to have to be really creative to come up with some.
This is on you.
That's right. It is. What do you want people to know before we pull the plug on tonight's episode of Bear Football?
Well, first and foremost, thank you for everyone who's staying up late with us. It's not easy to come into a Bears podcast live late on a Sunday night and talk about this team. So first and foremost, thank you for everyone in the chat room. Thank you for listening to the live version. Thank you for listening to the podcast version, the video version, the audio version. However you are listening to this, we appreciate each and every one of you, because this is therapeutic, not just for maybe you guys, but definitely for us. We get to talk through our emotions, and maybe I get to sleep a little bit better after watching what I saw on the television tonight. But that being said, make sure you check out all the great programming that's going to be following this show throughout the week. Like Aldo said, make sure you catch Greg Gabriel tomorrow. He's going to have some great insight for you about this Bears game and the Bears in general. Then Tyler Ellis and I on Tuesday night doing the Bear Debate, 10 hot topics surrounding the Chicago Bears. I'm sure that'll be interesting. Then Buffone 55. We will break down the Bears' next opponent, the Minnesota Vikings. We'll have somebody who follows them closely to break down that matchup to see if the Bears can get off the schneid and see if they can not embarrass themselves in front of a national audience. And maybe they'll give us some false hope. And then, of course, my B55 rants with Alyssa Barbieri. Thursday, Danny Shimon breaking down the tape, showing you what the Bears did right, showing you what the Bears did wrong. Probably a lot of the latter on that one. And, of course, Dan and Aldo, they have their show Wednesday night right after Buffone 55. Am I getting my days
Thursday.
Thursday?
Yeah. Well, Dan and Aldo are Tuesday, and then Danny Shimon and I are Thursday.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. And so check out all the great programming on the Barroom Network. We got Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks, science fiction, entertainment, and beyond. We got a lot of great stuff. So just subscribe to the Barroom Network. Everything fantastic. Check it out.
Yeah, and I
And
just
Mike
want
Rourke, by
to
the way.
real quickly. Dan Aguirre and I were texting about maybe we could come up with a segment for Tuesday's show, and so he came up with the idea of 10 of the most frustrating losses to the Green Bay Packers that the Bears have had, but not the ones that you would think of. He's coming up with a list of 10 losses to the Green Bay Packers that you're going to say, oh, yeah, I remember that. Oh, man, I was – so
Why?
if you really love misery –
Yeah, just say, if you love feeling like crap, you're going to love this show.
Exactly. So that's Tuesday at 8 p.m. Central after the Bear Debate Show. John, you're the best. Thanks for staying up late. Good luck at work tomorrow. And thanks to all of everyone in the chat room for staying up late with us. We, like John said, follow us here on our YouTube channel. That'll alert you to whenever we got a brand new live show. All right, everybody. Good night.